Hello, I think we are live now. Jameis is back. Hello. Okay, so I think I'm ready to go again. I've switched out my camera battery. I got more water. I got some snacks. I played with the children for a couple minutes, so I think we're ready to go now. So I just want to start with like a check-in with everyone. So like if you're just joining in now, let me know what you're working on. If you are continuing from last time, if you want to like, sum up anything you've accomplished, whatever. I don't know. If you want to say anything in the chat away. We have some chatty time. Welcome back from everybody. Yes. So let me give you all a quick recap of what we are working on. We are doing my capital city, and let me copy my notes over to this stream as well. That's the wrong thing. Hold on. Okay, there we go. That should be the link. If you didn't already get it from the first stream, but this is basically the notes that I've kind of been going through to work on this. And we're building my capital city. So here we've kind of gone through, and let me make all this go away real quick. We kind of worked on some brainstorming, figuring out, what the size of this area is, where on my map it's going to be, kind of some of the rough areas that we're going to have here in the city. A lot of the last stream is kind of just talking through the process and figuring out at a high level what we want to do. And basically right here, this is where we are putting my capital city on my island, which, do I still have the bigger map? It's too big. Here, which is like right here, basically, is where this capital city is. So let's go over to, here we go. And check all of that to get back where we were. So let's see. I'm working on the writing system for Conlang while I have this on in the background. Very cool. Very, very cool. I definitely have not looked into doing a writing system before, but like the ones that I've looked at, and that I've seen other people doing, it's really, really neat. Checking in for round 2. It is 5 p.m. in my part of Europe. Very, very cool. Yeah. Let's see. I'll eventually be starting a new star planetary system following Worldbuilding Pasta. Yeah, Worldbuilding Pasta stuff is great. I do really like it. He's awesome. I've chatted with him on a few things. He helped me, Nikolai helped me with my ore and mineralogy maps in that part of my guide, which was very helpful. But my plan for this stream is to get as far as we can, but I'm probably going to cut this one at 2 hours exactly, if not slightly before that, because the next 2 streams after this are going to definitely be longer. The stream that is like the 2 p.m. Eastern time, so 3 hours from now, Edgar of Artifexian is going to be joining me, and he has lots of stuff to work on, and I have lots of stuff to work on, so we'll probably be a little chatty. We'll probably go the full 3 hours or just about, and then the stream after that, I have Ross of Ross Bay Geo joining me, who helped with a lot of the other guides, and he's just going to be chatting through stuff, which is going to be very exciting. Artifexian and Ross, yes, exactly. If you are part of this YouTube world building community, you probably know exactly who they are already. Woot woot for Edgar showing up. Yeah, Edgar is literally the best. I'm very excited. And Ross for the win. Yes, we are gonna have a hoot. I was joking with Ross that when he gets on, if I'm still working on this map, it'll probably be mostly developed, and then I can just be like, Ross, tell me how awful this is and everything that's wrong with it. It makes no sense, and that can just be the whole stream. Not literally, but like he's brilliant. He's wonderful. Yes, I'm very excited. We're gonna have a great time. Edgar is going to be working on, if you're on his Patreon, which I do, he has like a Discord with his Patreon, and he's posted everywhere in that and in the public side of his Discord, the stream for this afternoon. But he's going to be working on his ores and mineralogy maps, which funnily enough, he's going to be using my guide for that Ross and world building pasta helped me make. So it's like this weird chain of like working on stuff, and he's going to be expanding it. So like he's going to be working on those maps for his world builders log. So that'll be what he's working on, and we'll have to switch back and forth. I can't show both maps at the same time, but that is going to be a hoot. So I'm going to give myself a little bit more of a break between this stream and that stream so that I am ready to go the full 3 hours. And also so that we have time to both get on beforehand and make sure we're all set up for the co-streaming there. Okay, yes. So let us get started then. I have Cheetos, so just sorry. So we were going to start on roads. So we know that we're going to have these major roads coming in from outside of the city, which maybe I should, over here in this fake little key, kind of figuring out what I'm going to be doing. I'm waiting patiently for the mineralogy log. Yeah. It's going to be pretty cool to see. I'm excited to see what he does for it, because if you've seen my ores and mineralogy guides, they're a lot. They're like many hours long. So I think he's planning on doing 3 parts maybe, or last I talked to him, he's planning on doing 3 parts. So, and he probably, like, some of the stuff I get into is going to be less relevant for him. So I'm curious to see what he does. Edgar references you reference Ross, you both reference Nikolai. It's a good group to share info. Yes, very true. And then if you get into the conlanging side of it, there's all the people connected on that side of it too, which I haven't gotten very connected into, because I'm like the world's babyest little conlanger who does the most minor of things. But yes. Okay. Yeah. So I think I want to make a couple size references just for the roads, just so I remember. But we'll have our like major roads, minor roads, and then we'll have like, it's like alley size roads. So I think, let's look how, this is probably a good size for a major road. So we'll say 15 is probably a good major road. I'm going to say like maybe 10 is good for a minor road. Oh no, what just happened? Why is that not working? Hold on just a second, people. Why is this not working? Oh no, is my... Hold on, let me see. No, my pen has 67% battery. My pen should not be out of battery. I think your contrast for between major and your minor roads may be too small. Oh, okay. Well, oh, there we go. Finally. Okay. So then would I want my bigger ones to be bigger? Maybe. We could probably go a little bit bigger for the larger ones. I can get over here, because that is kind of small to see. So let's think, maybe if we do, let's see how weird 20 looks. Oh, whoops. I totally know what I'm doing here. 20 for major roads. Let's see how weird that looks. I mean, like, if you consider how big these areas are, I don't think I want to go any bigger than that. Well, let me just see what like 25 and 30 look like. Well, that's 30-ish. You know, that's not that bad, actually. I think we will go with 30 for the super major roads, because there's only going to be a couple of those. Come on. Yes, I could type, but I have to hide my keyboard in order to have my screen like this. Okay, fine. Ugh. We'll type it. 30. Cool. Erase this. Let's bring this back up. Oh, would a hue shift also help? Maybe. Maybe. Oh, I still have this up. Sorry. Maybe. Let's 30 for major roads, or as you called them, arterial. And then for our minor roads, those would be more so we could either do 15, and then I imagine the little alleys would be more like 6 would be more like little alleys. Although that would be, yeah, that's probably about what we're looking. So, well, probably want like 18 then for our minor roads. Maybe. Let's see, what'd you say? Minor 15, alley 5. We can try that. Let's try that real quick. Do 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 do. Ugh, I keep doing this. 15, minor, local, and come on. All right. 5. You could always do dots instead of, or dashes instead of lines. So I don't want to do that because I want this to be more like picture-y, if that makes sense. So if you look at a lot of like historical maps, which I have them linked at the bottom of that Google Doc notes page, I wanted to kind of have that feel where it sort of looks like they tried to draw a realistic thing from the air. But like with like weird, awkward perspective things. That's sort of what I'm leaning towards a bit. And less like an abstracted map, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes literally any sense at all. But let's start with 30. Okay. So we're going to have a major road coming in from over here, which is probably going to be relatively straight. And I actually want the city walls to be outside my roads so that I can just boop right through there. I think you should later add an informative cartouche box on top of the scale bar. What is a cartouche box? You can Google that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll make it look nice later. Because who knows, we might want to move it. We got to get the vibe going of the map first. But, yes, okay. So then, yeah, we'll have a compass rose too. We'll have all of that stuff in here. But, okay, so here's our other major road, which will come in from probably like something like that for the major road, which it goes down like that. And again here, we'll probably have something going that way. And then probably something like right along the river. There would be a relatively major road. And again, on this side, it's probably going to be a major road going down that way. Okay, let's see. Something I made up, but it's common in Atlas maps along with the elevation bar. Like an Artifactians Atlas map videos. Yeah, we'll do something like that. The scale is just there for a reference right now, but we'll add all the little bits and bobs that we think are necessary. I might need to come up with like some symbols or something as we go. How far apart are your elevation lines? That will have an effect on the steepness of the road. How's the terrain and how much does it go up and down? Yeah, so these light gray lines, if you can see these here, so like this and this one here are rough elevation lines, like rough contours, and then there's another one that like is here. So this area right here is kind of a little bit on a hill, kind of the same elevation as over here. Would be this tippy-toppiest point. So it's sort of like you have this kind of hill going down, but then this one little like ridge in the center with like a little like whoop, and that's where the top of it is. Okay. I think the mood right now is we need to figure out how far apart these elevation lines are. So let's do that super duper quick. If I go to, where do I even have a scale for this? Did I not even, I don't even think I finished my scale for this elevation map, which is super helpful. It's a good thing Ross can't see this map right now. Okay, hold on. Let's open. Is it this one? Is that my main one? Where do I have? See if this is it. Wow, that's helpful. That's really, really helpful. Don't report me to Ross. That's so rude. He literally, though, if you've ever talked to Ross, he is a very big proponent of always having keys and legends, all that on your maps. For this exact reason right here. Okay. Ugh. Where is... No, that's because I traced that. No. No. Come on. Why am I so not helpful to myself? Let's open this guy up. Yeah, it's kind of like a rainforesty climate. How much of my map is in here? Oh, that's just that other map. That's helpful. You've done an amazing job with world map. Thank you. Thank you. I put so one of the big differences between Artifexian series and my map series, which I see people like point this out sometimes, is like his maps, like what he's doing is to build the maps he's making, like he's sharing building his maps with you. I normally don't share my actual maps with the channel. I make fake easy example ones that I don't put a lot of effort into for the guide series just because they take less time. But like I don't actually share most of the stuff I do. It takes a lot more time when I do it for myself. It's still really early here, but I made it. Welcome. What even time is it over there? It's 11:20 here. Yes, it's gonna be like a combination of like rainforest, monsoon, depending on like which side of the mountains you are. Like there's gonna be some microclimate shenanigans in there. Okay, so let's go back to trying to figure out what on earth I was doing with my topographic map. No. All right, let's see. I must have copied this from somewhere. This can't be my elevation map, my only elevation map. Let's see. Because I know what it is, because I did stuff based off it somewhere. I just don't know where it is. Maybe we'll have to come back to this. But I think, oh, here's something that's close. So I think, let's add like a temp layer here real quick. Just come in over here. So I'm pretty sure what we're looking at. So obviously we have oh. I think we're looking at 10,000 feet is probably going to be like here. If I had to guess. Yeah, it has 9 elevation steps. That's right, Greg. I think it's similar to Earth. So I think what I was doing, if I guess, because those super high peaks are super rare. So I would guess it's something like that. $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. They're not going to be an even scale. If we did, it's probably like, so if the one I see that's kind of similar is 650, 1650 to 450, 3300, 6500, 9800, 13100. So if that's what it is, which this looks very similar. Let's erase all this. These steps are approximately 800-ish, which we can probably just 800, 1600, 2400, 3200, 4000, 4800. Yeah, that might be where it jumps. Yeah, there's a big jump in that yellow on this map at least. So let's do 1,000. 5,000. $3,500, 6,000, 8,000, 10,000, 12,000, 14,000, 16,000. Approximately. I feel like that kind of makes sense. Like that 16,000 could go up higher, but that will cover most of our mountains, I believe. Let me know if that sounds reasonable to people. But I think that's what we want. So if that is the case, let's move this over to there. Deselect. And then if we pop back over to our, let's see, capital area map, I used a different scale, so that's not super useful. So let's go back here. Which Ross is going to be so mad at me, everyone. This is such a mess. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, let's just look over here because this little island is right here. That's where it is. So this goes 1, 2, 3, 4 steps. You're not going to see the highest peaks. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So it goes up to maybe 3,500 feet in most areas. So if we were to, this peak here is one of the highest ones, which is this one up here at the top. So this might be slightly over 3,500 feet. Let's see, where's our shenanigan layers? Let's add another shenanigan layer. So 100 feet. We have 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 levels. This one I think I did more even. So if this is approximately 3,500 divided into 8 levels, we'll say this is, yeah. Well, in my other map, it's not linear. On the top one, there's like the jumps are smaller, then they get bigger at the end. But let's do, I think this one was more even though. I think. Like it's definitely very hilly, but I think this one had more like even scale. So I think it's like roughly, this would be 437.5. So let's do 450 feet per change in elevation. So that would mean that we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So the 4th change in elevation and the 5th change. Whoa. Times 4. So this would be about 1,800 feet. And the 5th change in elevation would be about 2,250 feet. And so if we go to our Sanadovka map, that's the name of the capital city, by the way. We have one elevation line in there, which is 2,250. So let me just real quick. 2,250 feet is that line. And then if we go back here, the lower line, which is too low to see on the map, is 1,800 feet. So So it's about 1,800 feet there. So then we have 1, 2, 3. Would there be a fourth one? Let's see. It was right there. We're like... I think there's maybe only 3 lines between there, approximately. So that means it's about 150-foot difference per line. So this line up here would be 2,100 feet. This line down here would be 1,950 feet. And down here would be 1,000, I can do math, 800 feet? Is that right? Did I do that wrong? Oh yeah, I want to divide it into 4. Let's say this is... So let's do 115 per... Wow. Okay, hold on. Sorry. I can write better than that, I promise. 115 feet per line. So 2250 minus 115 is going to be 2,135. Over here is going to be 2,020. And over here is going to be 1,905. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So if we have those elevation lines and we have the square mile, then roughly, actually the distance between these contour lines is approximately 5 miles. Like that middle one is about 5 miles. And like this one's a little steeper. This one on the other end is a little less steep. So 5 miles having only 150 feet and elevation change, that is pretty flat. Like that is not super I don't think we need to worry at all about steepness. This is barely even a hill. Like this is nothing. Like a baby could hike this. Okay, where were we? Yeah, so I don't know exactly how we'd want to handle this. Yeah, I mean, it definitely is a weak point. I will say something that we've kind of talked about is that they're slightly less concerned about defense. Like, this is not an area that has had a history of being like a large history of like frequently being invaded or having to worry about that sort of a thing. So there would definitely be some concessions made for ease, but maybe I don't know, because I feel like wouldn't they want, or maybe it would just run right on the other side of the wall, and that's more what it would be. And then like maybe they have wells based off of that. Or I was just, so my thought process there when we were working on that was that they would probably want to have a water source if they were pulled inside of the walls. But that would also be like you'd have to have grates there to protect it from like people coming in that way. But I don't know. Think on that. Think on that. But if they had grates, it's a small water source so that they would have, you know, fresh water. Or maybe it would even be like an underground thing that they would have maybe. Because like they would have the ability to build infrastructure like that where it could be going underneath and then they have like a way to tap into it. That would definitely be possible. Let's see. Fairly flat terrain. Yeah, fairly flat. Rice terraces to boot. Yep. Regional slope is tiny. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, so I don't think we have to worry about elevation being that big of a thing. It's not that bad. It's fairly flat, which actually makes me wonder if we should have put this higher up, but it's fine. I think this will work. We'll go with it. It's a good location based off the map. Like, this is a good location for it to be. So what were we even doing? What is this? Those are my contours. Let's go ahead and label this with contour. Sure. Okay. So back to draft roads. So you may want to look into horse dynamic. So like I feel like it's such a wet place that I feel like they would have access to water pretty easily. I guess even with wells. So that would probably be fine. Yeah, that's probably more fine. We can always tweak that to go the other direction. So let's do that real quick now. And I feel like you all were telling me not to do this before anyway, and now I've been convinced. Don't remember what size that was. 15? No. That looks about right. We'll do that. And now we want to go up to, we were saying 30 for major roads, so let's get those in first. Why can I not ever do 30? Okay. With the roads, what type of vehicles were traveling on them? Animal-drawn carts or pack animals? Yeah, so there would have been some amount of carts here. There's some native, like, horse species. They also had a lot of water buffalo that were used a lot here. That would have all been used as, and beast of burden of some form or the other. So you'd probably have streets for that can handle that. But like the alleys and stuff probably wouldn't. Like I would imagine your like major and your minor roads would all be able to handle that, and then like some of your smaller alleyways would probably less so. Like maybe you could get a horse by, but like maybe not big carts. Okay, so major roads. I think you're gonna mostly like cut straight through this part of the city here. Because we're gonna have our big markets, which they're gonna go through. And I think yeah, we'll want these to be like big open areas, sort of like that. That's pretty huge, but I think that makes sense for the markets. And then the main road into the city would probably be here. And then for the bureaucratic center, I imagine there being some sort of like centralized plaza or something where like people could be summoned or something. So I don't think it'll go all the way to the palace, the major walls, or the major roads. But I imagine there being some amount of something like that, maybe some central area here. Something like that. That's probably way too big, but we'll work with it. And then, oh, wait. Let's turn our background color back on. That helps. So then we were saying that the road would probably connect around the city so that you wouldn't necessarily have to go to the city if you didn't want to, like if you were just passing around. So that would probably still be a relatively major road. So we'll put that here. And trying to think if the road going around the back of the city would be a major road as well. Yeah, the rivers would definitely be used for transportation. Major road should go to the palace. Yeah, that's probably fair. You can have it go like, boop, like that. Because at the very least, it would be grand, even if it's not an actual like major transport road. Road bypass. Your city loses out on tolls that could be charged going through your city. That's a good point. Although the city, so the pink line is the actual city. It's just not entirely walled. But they probably would want things to go through the city. Yeah. Although again, like, there's not going to be a lot going through like that because again, like the rivers are going to be a major transportation part. How big are the streams or rivers? I don't know exactly. The south one is pretty major. That's like one of the major rivers in the area. So like, I don't know if it's like a full mile across. No, it wouldn't be a full mile across. That would be huge. But it's probably bigger than I have it drawn here, honestly. It's going to be more significant. So I should probably thicken it up a little bit at some point so that it actually matches the scale. But it's going to be relatively large. Definitely large, which we'll tweak later and maybe figure out exactly how big we want that to be. But the palace road's the one that consumed 50% of the country's annual budget from the tilings used to make it look grand alone. Yeah. Okay, so let's say then. So there's going to be roads around the city. That's going to be a thing, regardless. So I don't know if there's really a way to avoid things going through the city to charge tolls. Actually, you know what? There would probably be tolls at the river crossings, if I'm being honest. Like up here and down here is probably where our tolls are actually going to be. So I think that would actually make sense. It's less going to be tolls coming in and out of the city because the city's grown so much beyond the city walls, and it's going to be at those toll spots. So there's probably going to be, which would only again make sense if those rivers are wide enough to like be able to easily catch someone crossing, or if there's a bridge or some sort of like very obvious spot. More seriously, you could probably have traces of the city's older expansion outwards. Maybe older interior walls were torn down and replaced with roads as the outer wall was finalized. Yes. So, yeah, we could do something like that. For the most part, they haven't in recent times worried about replacing the wall because threat has been so minimal that it just hasn't been something they've put a lot of money into. They haven't really been invaded. They haven't really been at war for a very, very long time. It's been a long time of peace. The rivers would be port cities for the merch off boats as well as for the trade routes. I'd put a reconstruction of Belgrade in the Discord as a comparison for what internal walls look like in that sort of outward expansion model. Yeah. Go ahead and do that, and I can take a look at that. But I think what we'll definitely want to do is put some sort of like center gate structure on either sides of the river crossing. It's done. Do I have a map to look at? It's being very slow. Oh, there we go. Oh, that is cool. That is really, really cool. That's pretty neat. Okay. Yeah. So I could have something like that where I have like more sections of it. This wall is pretty large. I'm not really sure. I don't think that it would extend significantly further in this case. Hmm. Yeah, because I don't think the walls they would be that worried about it. Like I could see maybe there being some bits of walls in places, but I don't know. Let's think on that a little bit and come back to it. I need to look up some maps of cities that were not entirely walled because I know some of them maintain most of the city in the walls, but then a lot of them spill out. So I need to find some city reconstructions where they've very much spilled outside of the city walls and are most definitely not contained within it, because that is a thing that happened. I think that it wouldn't be unusual for them to have partial walls though, and not even like full ones, but like maybe that stretch along there would have a wall attached to it, which may or may not connect into anything. Like, let me go to city walls real quick and show you what I'm thinking here. Well, how big is that? Yeah. So, like, I think what you might see over here, so, like, whoa, for this crossing, is there might be some sort of, like, you know, I don't know, something like that, perhaps, where you would have, like, gates here. Within there, you would have like storage areas for like, some goods or something. Like maybe there's like a barracks or something small there. I don't know. Like I could see there being something like that. There, maybe, maybe. I don't know. Tell me that looks dumb. But Nicosia in Cyprus. Let me look that up. Nicosia. Um. Yeah, those are kind of interesting looking. There's like one major route going through, but it spills out. They do have like a second wall there. I think even this is like more walled than we'd probably worry about. That is a pretty cool wall though. I wonder how much all these rope builders help or distract or process. I mean, it's fun. We're having fun. I'm curious where the primary ports would be. So probably like, in this area and in the same area up there is probably where you'd have the major ports there. And there probably would be some amount of canals so that you could bring those up further, if I had to guess. But those wouldn't be major rivers. Those would be like smaller ones. Undo that. Um, so if you then brought a canal where then they could bring it up through a series of gates, I could see that working. I don't think it would go all the way like through the city, but on your southern river crossing, why not also claim the southern bank of the river and place a walled fort there too? I think they would claim it. I don't want to build too many walls because they wouldn't have cared too much for that. You know what I mean? Like, if it's anything that they would have had to build or maintain in like the last like hundreds and hundreds of years, they probably wouldn't have done it. So like there could be like some older traces of it. But I don't know. I mean, maybe that, especially over the major one, maybe that would make sense because this is going to be a big bureaucratic passing point. So maybe they would do that. We can, do a rough like. I don't know. We'll just make it a little square right now. We'll have to fix up this area later. But like if we had something like that, that could make sense. I wish I had a good example of this sort of thing that sort of matches what I'm thinking, because it's a struggle. But I mean, it definitely, like, there are definitely city walls that had like rivers going into them and like things like that. But I don't know. Okay, let's think. Yeah. Okay, let's go back to the roads then, because we've kind of established where the points of tariffing is going to be. There's got to be an easy way to like easily flip between these sizes, but I don't know what it is. So then we don't have to worry as much about having roads that go all the way around. That wouldn't be a problem. I would think there's not going to be a major road going around the other side. I think that would be more like a minor road. So I think this is probably the extent of our major roads. It should be kept in mind that just because it's not at risk from external invasion doesn't mean you shouldn't be scared of the commoners living around the city. That's fair. That is fair. That's a good point. That is a good point. That was a huge motivator to constantly fortifying capitals, that and projecting power. Yeah, that's a good point. That is a good point. So maybe we would have something a bit more intense. Because these rivers right now from the actual wall, these are like 2.5, probably from the bottom, maybe 3 miles, and maybe almost 4 miles from the river at the top. So, river to river is about 8.62 miles, so that's not too crazy. I think it's reasonable for there to be like those tax collection points there on either side. I think that would make sense to do. Yeah. Okay. And we'll add. I'm going to add a little something here. I'm not sure what it is yet, but it's going to be something. Like maybe like a external market that's not like, it wouldn't be like a market because that would probably be in the town, but it would be something. And I just feel like it makes sense for it to be there. So I'm going to put it there and we'll figure out what it is later. So let's do some minor roads then. So we're looking at 15. So let's go back in here. Let's see. How do you look at top-down versus bottom-up world building, where we can look at what could make sense for this world one step at a time versus working from what would be useful for a story or theme? I mean, I think it's, honestly, it is, there's a lot of overlap in ways that you wouldn't expect, because like when it comes to working from like a story, like I'm thinking about, well, I mean, I had an idea of the setting, and so I've placed my location in a place that has a setting that matches that. And then I'm sort of building it up and letting a lot of the world itself influence it. But you still have to keep in mind that, like, you can't just look at a place and know exactly what would happen there, right? Or how things would develop. In that sense, like, you're still looking at a lot of history, you're still looking at how things have changed, how people have moved. Like, that's the big stuff I'm getting into in my cultural world building guide stuff, and why the last few parts have been taking me a while to get out, is just you have to consider the choices of people and the history of people and what they would choose, and like what their culture was like 1,000 years ago or even longer, and like what people used to be here, what changes of power have happened. Like, there's a lot of stuff that you have to go through that's really complicated. But there are definitely patterns that you can sort of go with to make it easier, depending on how large of a scale that you're working with. Um, but if you're just trying to look at, like, generally what would be historically accurate for a city in general, maybe more like a medieval-esque city, the link in the notes I shared for the article from the what is it? Something a collection of unmitigated pedantry. That website would probably be a good thing to, like, look at. And I think that would make sense to do. But it's really complicated. Is the long of the short. You mark it on the outside, perfect line through the gate, connect that with a minor road. Yes, absolutely. Yep, we're gonna do that. So let's get into this. Gonna have a road here, connecting here. And we're gonna have a road that goes outside the city. Probably a little bit closer than the other one I had. So let's do, like, that's gonna go inside. And I think this is gonna be a little road here. That will go inside. And also there'll be something here that crosses. That's probably definitely a bridge. Here. And there probably still is a minor wall here, or minor road here. Going around this side. Minor roads on the inner bailey before the keep. Minor roads on the inner bailey before the keep. So, like, in here, this sort of a thing. You'll probably want the only bridge on the west to connect out from the gatehouse. The road that hugs the river on the west, meanwhile, is probably not necessary unless there's some sort of promenade. So you're saying so that people don't cut up the river kind of thing? Probably want the only bridge on the west to connect out from the gatehouse. The road that hugs the river on the west, is probably not necessarily unless that's some sort of promenade. So the city, I'm imagining some of the city expanding out over this side up here to an extent. Maybe not a ton, but like a little bit. Although probably maybe not. Maybe not. I mean, it's a pretty minor river. I'm not sure. I think it depends on how much we expand the city out in that direction. I'll erase it for now, and we can always come back to that, depending on how the city ends up expanding. But Yeah, and there probably would be some sort of like the gate at the bottom would probably come down over here and like have a grate or something over this river or something so that it can't be used for transportation. Although it's like pretty small, so like I don't picture it being a big enough river for like bringing up big boats over there. Okay. Need 2 bridge houses. Um Yeah, there'll be something like that. There'll be something like that. Let's do Yeah, I don't know exactly what's gonna connect over those quite yet. But I think they would want things to go up and down on both sides. So if there is a bridge, it would need to be the sides that like things could go underneath of it. Um, so let's go through real quick. Yeah, let's go. Let's focus on the inside of the city for now. Um, you would have smelly productions outside the city and down the river. Yeah, potentially. That kind of stuff would be a little further out. Although depends a little bit on the city. Besides Photoshop, what tools do you use? I'm using a Surface Studio laptop that has like the top you can move like a tablet, and then I use a Surface pen thing. I'm not an Apple person. I don't use a single Apple product. Um, but yes, so what were we doing? Let's do. We need to have the roads that connect in here to various parts of the city. This will definitely connect in there. Something like that. All the roads are going to be like rough draft ideas based off like, needing to go through and actually make it all make sense, So let's go back to yeah. So for the most part, we're gonna have like I'm gonna draw it like this. Right on the inside of this is gonna be, you're not gonna have buildings right up against the wall probably. Unless they're part of it, but I'm imagining there's gonna be some form of road system here. Make it easy to, you know, maintain this. But then you'd want a little bit of space on the other side of the walls. That's why I kind of have that road a little bit further out, potentially. Although in cases they probably would have encroached upon it and not cared quite as much. So I think that's kind of fine. Okay. So that sort of gives us that. So then we need to connect the other walls. So let's do. Let me find a good example. I want to have some sort of like radial points in here. So if we take I want to do something like this. I'm not sure what that will be a radial point to. But if we do something like this, and then have, for now, we'll just do this. I think that kind of is kind of cool. And let's say maybe we do, yeah, I think that makes sense. Those radio points could be remnants of the old city's town center. Yeah. Yeah, I was kind of thinking like something like that could be kind of interesting. Because there would have been like a little like fort on the hill, which we still need to add somewhere. Something that would be a little bit more fort-y versus palace-y. Or like various like, you know, administrative buildings. But the center of like where the people actually lived, like maybe what their old market was and like whatever buildings they had could be kind of in that area. So we would probably have maybe something like that. And then there'd be like smaller roads in there. We'll add other roads as we add like buildings and stuff. Which I need to figure out a system of like categorizing the buildings because maybe I want to like have them be different colors based off their purpose. That could be interesting. That might make it easier to tell what's going on. Let's go over here. Those are kind of the main bits. I mean, you'd probably have some sort of maybe something kind of like that as a starting point. And then outside of the city, yeah, so then let's do, I'm not sure how we want to do like the external parts of it because I think those would be a little bit more organic. Then the inside would be a little bit more grid-like. Like maybe bits of it would be more intentional, but I imagine it would be a little bit more organic. But most of the buildings and like stuff is going to crop up around this main road here. So like this main like transportation road is going to be where a lot of your significant stuff is going to be. And then it will sort of branch off from there. So I think for now, until we figure out these little segments, I'm going to leave the roads like this and we'll branch them out. And let's come up with a rough key for the colors. I've had some notes on the colors, color for purpose, color intensity for building density. I don't know if I'm going to go as intense as for building density, just because like I don't need that for this, but it's a good idea. I color code the roofs, old versus merchant versus noble. Yeah, I think I want to do something like that where either maybe for this map I just do colored squares, but eventually it would be like if I do a pretty version of this map, like where it's not just like a top down, or maybe even now I'll do them like little like with little roofs. I don't know. I like the idea of that. I don't know if this is too zoomed out to do that, but where's our little key? Wow, I made a road on our key. That's not very helpful. Oh no. Let's fix this being part of that key. Okay, so let's go. So let's see. So outside of markets, often older cities tended to have very mixed development patterns as opposed to the single-use zoning you see in many modern, especially American cities. When mapping buildings based on color, you'll probably want to identify major landmarks, offices, and other. Yeah. And then everything else from residential to businesses, etc., they'll often be in the same building. Right. Yes. Yeah, I think that makes sense. So let's see. Let's make a new key. Let's have this be, drop this down. So if I pull up my notes real quick, the types of building stuff that I have, I'm going to have, ooh, wow. So zoom in over here real quick. So I think we will have religious buildings will be one color. I want to separate that from the regular administrative buildings. But I also think I want to separate administrative. But I want the administrative to be part of the. I'm trying to figure out if I want to separate like bureaucratic, like administrative buildings from the like ruling, like the ruling group's family. I don't know. I think I'm going to keep it all administrative. Well, maybe have it just be like a slightly different color from administrative to have just like royal buildings. Not that a lot of the administrative buildings wouldn't be like controlled by that, but like there'll be a difference of purpose where like royal is more like royal residences, which we'll say royal residences, administrative, religious, authority buildings. We'll have a color for defense / military. So like barracks, if there's like a court, jail, that sort of thing. There's an option to mark buildings based on income, which honestly might be the best way to go about this. Wealth divides within the city will often indicate strongly about who lives there. That's a good point. That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, because Okay. I know I'm going to want a separate color for noble / favored family complexes, because those are going to be very distinct types of, I guess, complexes or buildings. The idea of doing it based sort of on income, because like, yeah, a lot of the shops are going to be, although we're all twisted here, there'll be kind of little shops and stuff everywhere. They'll be like our major markets and then little small versions, but then there'll also be stores, which would probably have people living up in them. I'm not sure if it'd be worth separating those out, like having areas where you have like shops or specialty workshops, guilds or organizational buildings. I don't know if I need to worry about too much. This is a struggle. This is a struggle, but I do like the idea of having like general residential areas where it could be like some small shops, some residences, buildings like that based on income. Like that is, I think, an interesting idea. But I'm trying to decide what other ones I might want to have, because like educational buildings like schools, universities, the major academies would be I think I'm going to give them a special color. I am going to give a color, well, I'm going to put some of these on here, and I'm not sure if I'm going to keep this divide. I might do some of the major public spaces, like if I have like something equivalent to like a coliseum or something, I might, or like a baths, I might do that a separate color. I'm not entirely positive yet. Although those would probably just be generally dispersed within different areas. So we have noble/favorite complexes, which those are not going to be like open to the public, right? So those aren't going to be shops or anything like or it would just be for that small group. So those little complexes can be their own color. Then we can have a wealthy / merchant class areas, which would have a lot of like shops, like higher end shops, specialty areas, residential areas, like their public things. And then we'll have a section for I guess like general like middle class. And then we'll have a section for the, I guess, essentially the slums, or, oh, I have a name for them in my city. I can't remember what the actual word is in my conlang, but it's something like the betrayers or something. Which essentially means those that have been kicked out of or forsaken from like a sworn to a family oath kind of vibe. So I could do this, and then the question is, do I want my magic sector to be a different color too? Which is going to be like a subtype of like wealthy merchant / like middle class. Like it would probably fit like in here in terms of income levels. Something like that. We'll make a nicer version of this later. But okay, does magic and religion overlap? Sort of. It's kind of complicated. The religious groups don't really use magic as much. They're sort of separate, but they sort of worship the same things. The magic use is a little bit more bureaucratic here, and managed by the government more so than the religions or the religious authorities. So I don't think you can really put them in the same category here. Okay, so let's do quick colors here. Let's have red be royal residences. That's pretty easy. Administrative could be like orange, maybe. Let's have, you can use yellow for we'll use yellow for like nobility. And then we can use green for religious. And let's do like blue for academy. And then maybe do like a light blue for defense/military. And wealthy merchant class can be purple. Maybe the magic class then will be a pink. Middle class could be light pink. And then maybe like a really light color there, maybe. I think maybe that works. I don't think those are too close together. Unless I want to distinguish the magic a little bit more and have it be this dark green color so that it looks a little bit more separate, and then have that be more the middle class. I think that works. We can go with something like that just to kind of work on the buildings and stuff. So let's work through some of the options. We'll start with the center of power, so like our administrative centers, which are going to be, the political and religious authorities. And that's going to include both our royal residences and our more like administrative buildings. So let's get we'll do like size 6 because that seems to be easy to get. And let's pop some of those in here. Obviously up in the palace, that is going to be the religious family, and you might have an administrative building in there as well. So oh, whoops. Actually, that's kind of a question. Do I want to outline everything in black and then fill it in with colors? Is there a separation between church and state? Yes, very, very much so. There is a branches of the government that interact with the religion, but there's a lot of separation in terms of religious between state and church, right? So because this is a fantasy world, the magic is quite literal. So like religion is something a little bit different. It's not necessarily it's a little bit more complicated, but basically there is the entire state itself is based off the magic system and the magical beings, because there was this guardian spirit kind of thing that not really led, but guided the civilization, which had disappeared so many years ago. I don't know, I talked about it a little bit at the beginning of the first one, but there's some complexity there where the foundation for power was support of these guardian magical entities. But then the religions are sort of worshiping certain goddesses that interact with those spirits, or different, they're almost more different philosophies on interacting with it. So they don't really tie into the state part of it. They're more separate things for people to do versus, it's a little complicated, but yes, sort of. Okay, what am I doing? I was trying to decide if I want to draw outlines of buildings and fill them in, or if I want to just use the colors to make the little buildings. Or the areas. I guess for some of them I could just fill in whole areas. A lot of the buildings are going to be pretty small. So even with, maybe I should have made this map bigger. Because even like a relatively big building there, if I then fill that in, it would look weird. But I kind of think I want to do it anyway. You know? Where I'm not going to fill in every single building, but you'll have some of them. To an extent. I don't know. I think how I want to do this. Cluster them as sectors. Yeah, I think for a lot of this, that's what I'll kind of need to do. Other than like individual buildings, I think that's what I want to do. So if I have, this. Oh, this is going to be annoying. So if I get my royal color, boop. Color these in. Oh gosh. Thanks. Ooh, I have lunch. Okay. So these are all going to be royal areas. And then that's sort of the vibe, I think. Administrative buildings. She Uber Eats to her office. No, that was my husband. He's being very awesome at like watching the kids most of the day. And my mom's downstairs too, I think. She came by a little while ago. To hang out with the kids. So that's always fun. Okay. So that's inside of the palace walls. And like, this isn't going to be exact. Like, if I want to make an actual palace map, I'll like flesh it out a lot more. But I don't think that's even going to be a relevant setting that I'm going to go to. So I don't need it to be like uber thought out. But I'll definitely want a bunch of various administrative buildings here in the center of this area. So probably almost all of this is going to be part of that administrative center, right? So, you know, I'll just throw a bunch of like random buildings in here for funses. We'll need some smaller roads connecting out of here at some point, but the various academies are going to probably be in here. So which side do I want to be where the magical sector is? Probably over on this side. So there'll be maybe some general building here. But there will be a that'll be one of the academies-ish. Yeah, I'm not exactly drawing to scale for these. Like, it's a rough idea, but like It's a rough vibe. Like, the buildings aren't exactly, but they're kind of like to give an idea of what's there, because it's kind of hard. Magic is very much strictly, very, very, very strictly controlled by the government for the most part. So I think it makes sense for it to be like the academy to be really close, and the areas that you're able to live very close, that it can be controlled, and all of that. So then there's probably like a major university for just like an academic standpoint, probably like here ish, which is actually probably quite large. Um, I'm not gonna be over particular. Should also consider where bureaucrats and government officials live. So most of the government officials, what I'm imagining, is the buildings are going to have like a sort of dormitory style to them, where they will have like individual small rooms near their offices, near the buildings. Um, but for the most part, all of the bureaucrats are going to be from the noble families who have their like compounds. So like their main home would be there, but then they have like almost like a little apartment kind of thing in the buildings. Yes, I'm definitely going to have that's why I left some gaps between the walls around there where there'll be some like stationing of like guards and stuff like that. So if that's regular academy, magical academy, then we probably want some like general offices. Maybe some. And these might not be like single buildings. These might be like clusters of buildings or like little courtyard kind of buildings for the most part. I'm thinking. I'm trying to decide whether or not I would want to have any of the noble families have any of their complexes within the walls. I'm not sure. I sort of lean towards no, just because, well, it could be a recent change. It could be a recent change, but in the past, it probably wouldn't have been because rulership isn't hereditary. Or, yeah, it isn't hereditary. The the guardian would sort of choose the next ruler every time, so it'd sort of be like magically chosen, and it could be, there are certain families that were more likely to have been chosen. So basically that's where the nobility comes from, is the lineages of people who have been chosen to be rulers or who are more often, which gets people assume that means they're the more worthy people because, you know, they're from lines that have been chosen to rule. But because it could be anybody, I don't know if there necessarily be complexes within the inner walls. Like there might be a few, but probably not a lot. Mm, Yeah. So it's probably just like, dormitories type style for the people that need to stay there for some reason or another. Mm. I've reached the fun part of this where I'm doing things on the wrong layers. Maybe just have the small estates inside the walls when they're court business. Yeah. Probably depends on how much authority the state exerts over the aristocracy. If the inner walls are exclusively for government use, now the noble estates have probably been moved outside. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, I think you're probably right. Label your layers. I know. Okay. Okay, we're gonna do it. We're gonna fix the layers. We're gonna do it just to make Ross happy. Um so what is this right now? Is um we'll say that's the palace walls. And this should be the admin center. Or not walls, but like buildings. So then I should have a layer under that that is colors. We'll add one here, and this should be palace colors. So we'll start with that. So palace buildings are on the right layer. Admin center buildings are right other than they include the colors. So we should be able to just draw over the colors for palace colors and erase them for admin center colors. Yeah, palace colors. Let's just fill those in really quick. There we go. Okay. So now that's good. So then we can move on to these, and I can lock those temporarily, the ones for the palaces, so I don't actually write on them. So admin center buildings, admin center colors. So all of these are going to be admin or admin residential, like anything like that would kind of fit. Okay. So then we have, what is the academy colors? This guy right there. That's going to be in here. And then the magic school is technically an academy. But it's magic, so we'll do this. Okay. So then that makes sense. So something I'm thinking about that I haven't placed yet, which will be important, is my temple. And this temple is a building from hundreds of years ago. Would have been more important. Would have been a more sacred area, and is the place where, as part of my book, they have to like complete a heist to get into. I had sort of been imagining it as this like, when I was originally thinking of putting this city like butting up against like cliffs, that there would be like, it would kind of be nestled up there into it to where like you couldn't really scale down into it, and you like, it would just be very defended from a like, you know, geographic perspective. But now that doesn't really work unless I add some sort of like mini mountains kind of thing. Because I don't want it to just be like exposed in the middle of everywhere. Like, this is a place that's going to be kind of isolated. They're going to keep it kind of isolated. So I think it would be within the walls, or like maybe somewhere over here, like up over in this region, maybe. If I made, I'm trying to think if there's a way that I could like make behind the palace be a little bit more like there's like a tall like ridge there or something, like if that would be doable. Because it's so flat otherwise though. So I'm not sure if that would really make sense to do. Let me look up. Because I don't need it to be huge, right? And I know you can have little like isolated plateau things. I know there's like an interesting one in let's see, this looks like it's in Mount Lico. I could have something like that. It's an Inselberg mountain in the Alto Maluku district of Zambezia province in northern Mozambique. Let me look up what that means. Isolated rock hill or ridge or small mountain that rises abruptly from a gently sloping or virtually level surrounding plain. Let's figure out how it's formed and if that could form here. Differential erosion are common in eroded and weathered shields. Typically indicates the existence of a nearby plateau or highland or their remnants. Which, I mean, that could make sense here. Like, this is sort of on the slope down, so it could have been higher. Nearby plateau. Okay. So, I mean, these are found in generally similar areas. I don't see any reason why I couldn't have one of these. Inselbergs. If you have karst/limestone, you can justify the terrain looking like literally anything. Fair. There are hills and regulators all over. Would be flat seems more unusual. Yeah, like, it definitely wouldn't be flat, but I mean, I want something that's like a thing, relatively significant. There's one in Italy. Yeah, we're doing it. That's what we're doing. So let's see. Let's place this down. Where are our contour lines? I think these are our contour lines or our contour labels. That's our contour labels. We want These are our contours. I'm going to rename it. Don't worry. Cool. Oh, I forgot the whatever. It's fine. We have the vibe. So I am going to this. Add some light in here. Probably. I imagine the palace would be either on top of it or nearby it. So we might have to change that one road, but that's fine. Let's say it's like that. You know, that's sort of a thing. And then, you know, that path on the edge of it would be very much like there'd be steps there or something, like to make it harder to access. I think that makes sense. So then let's go to our draft roads. Let's erase this. And that is 15. Yeah, I think it's 15. Copy that. And the road here will probably connect like that. Yeah, cool. Cool. So then I'm going to put this as part of the admin center, even though it's not within the walls, because it is sort of, let's see. Six, there we go. Sort of a similar thing. And there might be, yeah, maybe we'll add a small gate here. And Kustas, let's look that up. Oh yeah, that could be interesting. I'm not sure if that's as likely to. I'll have to look into the exact bits. I'm gonna draw like a 3/4 view, I guess, or like at an angle of this at some point. But let's assume, so the temple itself, let's assume it's like right here. That's a temple. And then there'll be like a wall behind it. There will be maybe some small buildings next to it. And then maybe like another little wall bit where this used to be like a big thing. Tinier wall. Yeah, there'll probably be some trees around here. I'm getting Segovia vibes. Let's add that to my list of things I have Googled. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I do like that. There's definitely some vibes there. For sure. For sure. Okay. So this is going to be, it's mostly unused now, but what is my, I guess I'll mark it the magic color. Because this was, oh, I almost messed it up again. Colors. But then also, we'll do this. This would have been a previous, like, pretty major place that's now, like, kind of blocked off and not really utilized very much. So I'm thinking they might have even, like, killed the road leading into this place that used to be, like, from the outside. So maybe that gate is now closed off entirely. And you can really only access it from inside the main complex because it's so, like, there's big no-nos with it, right? It's kind of a forbidden space. Let's add a layer for, I'm just going to call it trees. But it'll be, you know, general vegetation-y type things. Which, maybe I'll have it be, like, pretty dark. This area probably would be, you know, mostly trees at this point. This would all be too steep. And I'll make this look better at some point, but, like, you know, you get the vibe. Don't want to completely cover up the fact that that's, like, a hill. We'll say that's sort of like, you know, covers up that bit there. Probably some. In there. And then, you know, we'll have bigger forests out further for wood and everything. But let's do this. Select 15, I think was our smaller size. What time is it? Okay, I'm going to be stopping soon to prepare before the next stream. But let's see if we can get this part finished. Oh, I'm on the trees layer. Garces! Ugh. Roads. Ah. Yeah. So sort of like that. That's sort of my thought. So then I can fill out this interior complex part with probably mostly like more some bureaucratic buildings, but I also imagine there might be a couple of like more leisure locations, like for the royal family, like there might be some like private gardens and type things. Although a lot of that would probably be in the palace complex, but like I think there would be some like in here as well, especially given the importance of like nature to the society. So if we have maybe like, maybe this part is a public park kind of area. Just go 6. Then we could have some like, little walking path, some more nature focused area, and maybe some like little buildings in there for various purposes. I think that might make sense to do. Have this big sprawling kind of park thing. So then I probably want some big military style buildings. Something like that. And then maybe like might have like a side road leading into here, and they might have more of. Whoa, what the? Something like that, right? Where it has more facilities, maybe for like some training, some housing, whatever they would do. It probably wouldn't be significant amounts of training, but there'd probably be a decent amount of like barracks, armory, stuff like that. Oh, let me color that in real quick, and then I'm going to end this stream until the 2 o'clock stream. So let's go with defense/military. Oh no, I almost did it again. Colors. Maybe I'll focus my stream with Ross when he's on with just making all my keys to his to his satisfaction. I think that makes sense. And then obviously like all the gates would have, military stuff. That's all presumed, but thank you for all of this. You're welcome. It's good for me. Love this progress in just a single day. Yeah, we're making decent progress. We've been doing a lot of chitter-chattering and trying to figure out things, but once we get the main stuff, it's mostly just going to be a lot of filling things in and all of that, which will be nice. But yes, Yes. Okay, so I reckon I should probably start the mapping that I'd planned for today as well. See you all in an hour. Yeah, probably. And remember, in 1 hour from now, I will be back on here. I will be with Edgar of Artifexian. We'll be chatting a little bit more probably and switching back and forth between what I'm working on and what he's working on. But we will get to that a bit later. I hope y'all have been at least enjoying yourselves, if not making good progress. I've definitely been making a lot of progress. And yeah, I will see you all back in 1 hour.